Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 283.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting episode.
No, I'm super excited for this one because, we've kind of had a lot of people ask questions about this, whether it's in our personal life or whether it's, from the podcast. And we actually had an episode where we talked about it before, but
I can't remember which one that was. It was a while back.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but we're talking about like the ethics, the morals of reselling.
Is reselling ethical, or are we just evil?
Yeah. Are we those evil people who are
exploiting?
Yeah. We're ruining the opportunities of others. Or do we provide a service, an important service, not only to the economy, but to our community and our family, right?
To our planet.
That's right. And our planet. Yes. There's definitely some positives here. So we're going to be talking about that today, and I'm really excited about it. But before we get into it, I want to give a special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. We've had more people joining into our Patreon. As always, the podcast is free. We're not saying like, hey, we're gonna tease our Bellows, but if you want to get them, you got to join our Patreon. We're never gonna do that, but we're moving in the direction of getting our Discord going, and the Discord is just going to be a community of resellers coming together. It's not a bolo, it's not a cook group. It's just a place for us to chat, to hang out, to have kind of like our old Buy Me a Coffee Zoom meetings. We're going to do that through Discord. And so we wanted to invite all of our Patreon supporters first, so that we can kind of see how this works and get it going and build the community up strong. And we had a few people ask us like, hey, I bought like a whole year of Buy Me a Coffee. Mm-hmm. Am I still eligible? And absolutely. If you paid for like a year of Buy Me a Coffee, and then all of a sudden Buy Me a Coffee kind of pulled the rug out from underneath all of us, you are still absolutely a supporter of PHP Podcast. We will contact you through the email that you provided through Buy Me a Coffee, and we will make sure that you're part of our, the monthly meetups that we do and all of that. So thank you again for all of you who support us. If it wasn't for you guys, we couldn't be doing this. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you again. Patreon.com/PHP Podcast. Yeah. And there's also a link below. So we did an episode like this a while back. I don't even remember. Maybe it was in the hundreds of the episodes. I don't remember which episode it was. And I feel like we're kind of nuanced now. Like, I think there's different ways of looking at it, because one of the arguments I remember we made in the beginning was that everybody resells, and so therefore it's okay. Right? Like,
whether you're a retailer reselling from a wholesaler, right?
Yeah.
It's
it's true.
Argument.
It's true, right? I mean, you go to Walmart, you're buying stuff at Walmart at a markup. You go to Costco, you're buying at a markup, even though it's a great deal, right? You go to the shoe store, you go anywhere. And it's interesting because, a lot of people are like, oh, how can you sell it for so much when you only got it for this price? Well, every single store does it. But I don't know. I want to go in a different direction, right? Because, that's kind of like the argument, like everybody else is doing it. Like, that's why it's okay. And I think it's a valid argument. I just, I want to go in a different direction. I want to take a look at a few things. The idea that reselling provides opportunities that cannot be found in many other avenues of business. It also prevents waste, but we'll talk about what that means. Are we really creating sustainability? And we'll talk about that. And this is not going to be too deep into all of that. Just like, we're sticking to reselling. And then basically, do we actually connect items to individuals? Do we provide a service that they would not have access to if it were not for reselling? Right. And so the first thing is, the idea of providing opportunity. Mike, I don't know a lot of businesses that have such a low barrier of entry.
Yeah. And here's the problem. What breaks my heart, I did a YouTube video on the whole Lulu Row thing. And I've known a lot of people who've been involved in pyramid schemes and various multi-level marketing. And what really breaks my heart with those is a lot of the people who get pulled into those things, they're people who are willing to work hard. They want to find a way to provide extra things for their family. They want to be able to go on a vacation. They want to be able to buy a second car. They want to be able to afford to take their family out, whatever it is. All of these things, these are good things. And a lot of these people, they believe the lie of, hey, this is an easy thing. You're going to be successful. You're going to get, all you have to do is pay us X amount of money. All you have to do is, and it breaks my heart when you see so many people victimized by those things. Mm-hmm. And one of the beautiful things about reselling is, like you said, it's got such a low barrier of entry, and it is not only possible, but it's very, very, very doable. Now, the thing is, it takes work. Like we call it the Pure Hustle Podcast because we've never made this claim that this is just going to be passive income. You're just going to, buy this course, do this thing, and all of a sudden you're going to be raking in millions of dollars. But if you've got an extra few hours a week, if you've got some time to learn and to do, you can turn that time into money when you resell. And there will be occasional failures. We talk about that occasionally. You buy an item and it doesn't breaks or something happens with shipping. But I would say 95% of the time, you are going to turn some kind of a profit on everything you pick up.
Agreed. As long as you do it right? As long as you do the research and you learn new niches. And what I mean by low barrier of entry, it all depends on what you're trying to do, right? I mean, everything has some kind of barrier, right? eBay, I find, is the easiest one. eBay, you can just find stuff around the house and you can start listing it based on, the comps, comparables on how much an item would sell for, and you can make profit. That doesn't take a lot, right? Or you can go to a garage sale, right? Doesn't take a lot of capital. Or you can go to a thrift store, right? Amazon takes a lot more capital. There's a lot more risk, but there's also ways to do that too. And you don't have to have certain boxes checked like a regular job, right? You could, if you're somebody that's trying to, reform your life, you spent some time locked up, or, you ended up having to go to a new location as a result of, changes in family, and you can find a job right away. Like, reselling is available for you.
Yep.
Right. If you're in between jobs, and, we experienced this in the last couple of years, a lot of people weren't able to work their normal jobs and they had to fill in the gaps outside of the free money that was being passed around. And they found that they were better off going to do reselling, and they learned how to develop businesses. And so reselling provided this avenue for people to get out of despair, out of poverty. Right. To me, it's like the ultimate capitalistic system, right? You buy low, you sell high, you provide goods for someone or a service, right? You ship something to somebody in a good amount of time that they need something at that time, and you are repaid, right? Based on the value of the item and of the time that you spent doing it. Now, if you do it wise, obviously you got to make sure that you're not, spending a lot of time and not making a lot of money, right? But the barrier to entry, right? Pretty much anyone who's willing to put in the work could do reselling, whether it's something that they'll be able to scale. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. And like, to go along with that, we're talking such a low barrier of entry. Pretty much everybody has a phone, and there may be some instances where people don't, but I'm a perfect example. I don't have internet where I live. I don't have internet, right? I don't have normal constant power. I am able to resell almost entirely from my phone, right? Like, I'm able to go somewhere, look up comps using my phone. I'm able to take pictures on my phone, list on my phone. I can basically print out, shipping stuff. And even when I wasn't doing that when I first started, you could still go to the post office and print the labels at the kiosk. So no matter what situation you're in, even if you're, basically out of a car, you can resell, you can do this.
Oh, we have people, remember, with bikes.
Yeah.
Like, they go sourcing on their bicycle.
Yep.
Right. So again, to me, that reselling is not a bad thing, right? Reselling definitely allows people to do things with the least amount of resistance. Right. And the other thing, a lot of people talk about, thrift stores, and this is the one that, a lot of people say, well, you go to thrift stores and you're taking and you're buying items that the poor need, right? There's no more shoes available for them. There's no jackets. There's no shirts. Like, you're exploiting the situation. Now, I will talk about, is that true? Like, 100% it's not true, but we'll talk about a little bit later on why it's not true. What I wanted to point out, the fact is that resellers, there's no direct stats, but it's pretty clear that resellers buy a lot from thrift stores. A lot. Okay, I would say, than the average person that's just going in there looking for their jacket or looking for a sweater or whatever. And if I go to a certain like, for example, I go once a week to certain thrift stores and I'll drop $300 to $500. If there's a lot of good stuff, maybe I'll drop $1,000, right? And what do these stores do? The majority of them, right, are part of charitable organizations.
Yeah, they take the profit they're getting to, give to the community, to do things in the community. Maybe they're using it if they're doing the store that should not be named model, the Goodwill model.
Well, let's talk about them. Let's talk about them. We always give Goodwill a hard time, right? And I think it's valid that we give them a hard time. But even in Southern California, last year alone, this is from their site, they placed 3,943 people on new jobs through programs and services offered at 3 campuses and 24 job service opportunities throughout Los Angeles. So this is just in LA. Okay, Riverside and San Bernardino, counties. Proceeds generated from 81 retail stores and 46 donation centers throughout the community fund our employment services and program. When we get someone back to work, the whole community benefits. That individual is now making a value contribution to society instead of having to rely solely on taxpayer dollars and charity to survive.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what you want, right? I would assume, right, that our government wastes all kind of money. Right. And there's no accountability on a lot of it. But with this, right, there's individuals now that maybe couldn't get a normal job, or because of circumstances that limited what they could do, they're now able, right, to get a job, and Goodwill is able to prevent that.
Yeah. So even with that model, which I feel like is of the charity models, maybe the one that has the most problems, it still provides a great opportunity
Correct.
and service.
Yeah. We're not saying, there isn't issues of marking up prices and taking advantage of the resellers and all that.
But the thing to consider, though, is like you were saying, if you were to just pull out, like, how they have like movies and books of like, imagine the world, 24
Yes.
hours without, this type of person in the planet or in a community, like everything would fall apart. And just imagine if resellers just completely were, let's say they passed a law, resellers could no longer buy things from thrift stores.
Mm-hmm.
Thrift stores would close.
Yeah.
They would close because, like you said, even if it's not all of their profit, even if it's 40% of their profits, 30% of their profits, companies can't take those kinds of hits. A industry cannot take that kind of a hit and sustain it long term. So, as much as you can make arguments, and we could talk about a lot of the reasons why those arguments are wrong, the thrift stores, they rely heavily on resellers. So we're providing an opportunity for the thrift stores.
Yeah. And, there's different ones. I mean, we have some in San Diego that help veterans out. We have like the Salvation Army that provides drug and alcohol, kind of programs to help people recover from addiction. I mean, for the most part, there's not very many for profit, but even if they were, that's okay, because those are families, right? This is the way they're making their way of living, right? So they're providing for their families by creating a thrift store. And so, again, resellers are an important part of that ecosystem to allow other individuals to thrive, right? And so along with that, though, reselling, going with that, does provide life-changing opportunities for a lot of people, right? Whether it be life-changing, I've been broke in the sense that I've been broke. Like, I didn't have a car, I didn't have furniture, I didn't have any of those things way back, like in my early 20s, right? And over time, I started working and in education, I was going up the ladder. I became a department chair and then an administrator and stuff. But even still, like it was still like a paycheck to paycheck scenario. But once I started reselling, I was able, at that time when I was married, I was able to go on consistent date nights. I was able to go on family vacations. I was, able to get a second car, and all of that came through reselling. I was able to get out of debt twice. And so,
sounding like Dave Ramsey over there.
Well, yeah, but not $1 million. Imagine being $1 million in debt and getting out of it. What a feeling.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, once you do it once, I feel like you could do it again.
I do agree with that.
If you lost every bit of inventory you had, it would be much easier for you to build up your reselling business than it was the first time, because you have all so that's the kind of that idea there. Yeah.
So I know people personally that have paid off debt. Some of our listeners have paid off their cars. They're now working on paying off their homes. There's people that have paid off medical bills that they couldn't take care of. People are working on student loans. I always struggle saying that around mic, but
yeah. I just think from a personal perspective, like, you mentioned we've got a lot of our listeners. We've had people call in. We've had somebody on the Dave Ramsey program was
Correct.
able to do the payoff. So for me personally, reselling, it allowed my wife, who at the time was making more money than I was making, to leave a corporate job to be able to spend more time with our family. And my son has a medical condition, and as a really young kid, he couldn't go to daycare. And so we were putting a lot of pressure on her mom. We're like, you know what? I think you being home with our kids is the best decision for our family. And she's still able to work through helping with the reselling business. And so I just think, like, all the opportunities it provided, not only were we able to take that massive pay cut, but also pay off a bunch of debt. So without reselling, we would not be in this position. Without reselling, I can't even imagine where my family would be. I can't. Like, my wife would still have to be at work. And again, there's nothing wrong with working, right? I work a full-time job. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that my family dynamics would be different. And so it's just incredible to think that I am where I'm at today. our family has the family structure that it has today because of reselling. Like if you would have told me,
Agreed.
If you would have told me 4 or 5 years ago when I started reselling, when all I wanted to do was make a little bit of extra money so I could buy some fancy camera equipment without having to dip into money, like, because my wife would have been like, no, you're not spending $1,500 or $1,000 on something right now. That it would have led to where I'm at as a family. It's just, it's baffling to think. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is it is a life-changing thing.
Yeah, agreed. And again, there's
a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but again, it's the opportunity that pretty much anyone who's willing to put in the work could make it happen. Right. All right. Hey, before we move on, I do want to share about a new resource that we've been engaging lately, and it's called Pixel Cut.
Pixel Cut.
So Pixel Cut is great. It's available on Android and iPhone. So, both Mike and I are able to use Pixel Cut.
Yeah, we talk a lot about different tools for reselling throughout the years. We've had full episodes on tools. And so whenever we find a new tool, and Pixel Cut isn't new, but it's like new to us to use, we want to share that with the community. And Pixel Cut is an app where you can actually take pictures of items and remove the background super fast.
Yeah, seamlessly. And it makes a really sleek design.
It's crazy. Like when you can go to a thrift store, buy something, take a picture of it in your car. And if you're on the YouTube, we'll probably throw up on the screen here, like some examples of it working. It's pretty amazing. You take a picture of something, you remove the background, you've got like a professionally edited picture. It looks like you're in a light box, perfect white background, infinite white background. And you're doing it all from your phone.
And it allows you to be mobile. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right. I've done it before when I'm doing, something that I'm on the road and I ended up at a thrift store and I'm like, man, I don't have a light box. It's okay. Because with Pixel Cut, I'm able to remove the background and I'm able to post those nice, clean pictures. And by the way, not only is it good for reselling, right? I've used Pixel Cut to remove backgrounds for different things, as far as like you could do headshots with it. You could, if you're trying to do a thumbnail for YouTube, you can create different kind of backgrounds, not just remove the background. And there's a lot of tools. You can add shadows to things. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities. And so, if you're trying to do a podcast or a YouTube channel, or you're just trying to get a resume together, all those avenues are available to you through Pixel Cut. So if you want to try this new resource, you can go to the link below. It's a Pixel Cut on the Apple and Google Play Store. It's available for you. It's a great resource. So check them out again. Pixel Cut.
Yeah. Did you see they have like an eraser? So they have the one where you can get rid of the background, but they actually have one where you can like remove an item. So I was playing with it, and depending on how the picture is set up, like if there's a water bottle in the picture, you can actually like remove it from the picture. So like just imagine you got you took a picture a while ago and you're like, you know what? I don't like that person anymore. I wish they weren't in my wedding. You could just, remove them out of it, and now you got a new picture.
You can use it whatever way you need to use it. So again, Pixel Cut, that's PIXELCUT. All right. What about preventing waste? Right, reselling, preventing waste. Now, I have something controversial to say here. So, and I don't know. Hopefully, hit that thumbs up before we say this. So if you haven't yet smashed that like button, make sure to smash that like button.
Yeah, and if we're wrong on anything, let us know in the comments, but do it nicely, because we're sensitive. We've got tender hearts and souls, and no, I mean, you can come at us hard if you want to, but what do you got? What's our controversy?
Right, so here's what's interesting. So we always hear about sustainability, right? Reselling is great for recycling. It saves the planet. It prevents waste from going to landfill, and there is truth to that. But I found this was the Harvard Business Review, and they had a whole article called "The Myth of Sustainable Fashion." And it's interesting. Let me read some excerpts here. They said, the sad truth, however, is that all this experimentation, supposed innovation in the fashion industry, talking about reselling, over the past 25 years have failed to lessen its planetary impact. A loud wake-up call for those who hope that voluntary efforts can successfully address climate change and other major challenges facing society today. Take the production of shirts and shoes, which has more than doubled in the past quarter century. 3/4 end up burned or buried in landfills. Okay, and later on, they talk about the environmental impact that reselling has only prevented about 1% of the waste. Now, on a huge global scale,
macro scale,
on a macro scale, right? That it doesn't sound great, right? And I appreciate this article. I'll put the link below so you can read it if you want on your own time. But they had 75% of it, right? And they talked about like different companies and how they actually just burn their stuff, like instead of sending it to the landfill, which also isn't good. But, as resellers on a micro level, it's still something that has a positive impact on the environment.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like where, if I pick up a piece of trash on the ground and throw it away, am I making a huge impact on the environment? Like, no, but I'm making a small impact. It's like the old like starfish metaphor. I'm sure everyone heard. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh gosh. So there's the metaphor of a guy's walking on the beach and he saw an old man throwing starfish out into the ocean. There's thousands of starfish on this beach, and the kid walks up to the guy and goes, "Why are you doing that?" And he goes, "I'm just trying to get these starfish in the ocean." He says, "But you can't save them all. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. You're not going to make any difference." And he picked up one, he threw it into the ocean. He said, "I made a difference for that one."
Okay.
It sounds super cheesy, right? But like,
but hey,
that's the idea though here is, and that's true. So I think the idea of the myth here isn't so much that you can't personally make an impact, but the idea that the fashion aspect of sustainability is going to change the entire industry. So that is like the primary way. I think that some people think that like, okay, like we're going to be able to prevent any waste or even make a huge difference, but 1% it's not nothing. And again, when anybody wants to say like, "Hey, you're doing something wrong," you can say, "I'm making a 1% difference." Well, I'm making a 1% difference in the global.
Some is better than none.
That's right.
Well, it's interesting because, about this whole idea of recycling, right? Because that's what we do, especially if you sell on eBay or Poshmark or Grailed or Depop or any of those platforms. What you're doing is you are recycling, right? And there's a whole discussion about, recycling and its effectiveness. But even this article, it said, I'll just read these two paragraphs. Recycling is oversold. This is due to a host of reasons, including the inability to plan design at scale due to variability of supply, limits to recycling technology, limited infrastructure, and shorter quality fibers resulting from recycled inputs and high costs. As a result of these obstacles, like I said before, less than 1% of all clothing is recycled into new garments. Worse yet, recycling does little to limit environmental damage while exacerbating inequality. Recycling bins in H&M and Zara stores are a guilt-free placebo that encourages even more consumption. Most of the donated items end up in landfills in poor countries. At the same time, a recent life cycle analysis on cotton jeans revealed that the climate change impact of buying and disposing a pair of jeans is almost the same as upcycling the jeans into a new pair. So in reselling, we're not trying to create into a new pair. In reselling, right, we're not sending it to a landfill. Instead, it's just going person to person, right? And so it's still able to do a good thing, right? And so it's just, I thought this was interesting, right? Because that's all I've heard. And when I was researching, I was looking for, resource to verify this because, there are some good reports. So for example, ThreadUp in their 2021 resale report, they said that 125 million unique items were processed and never ended up in a landfill. So that's still a major impact. 125 million pieces is a lot. So, in the end, right, it ends up, they said 1.1 billion pounds of carbon emissions were displaced. Okay. It also led to, more individuals having access, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then they also verified through the use of reselling, and we haven't talked about this much on our podcast, but eBay and Posh and ThreadUp, they all have the ability that when you resell, you could also give a portion to charity, right? And so reselling has that capability, and so they were able to give $550,000 in charity through 2020 through their clean out program. So they had these like fundraisers where you sell certain things and you connect it to a charity, and you're able to give to that charity. So again, reselling isn't always profit-based, but the idea that it is profit-based motivates people, right, to make a change as best as they can.
Yeah, and I think about reselling because, the next point we're talking about, the amount of clothing to be recycled continues to grow. But what makes reselling, the reason the types of things we sell is typically it's quality items. And a lot of things people buy, part of the consumeristic culture, and if you just notice in general, items get, the quality value goes down significantly. Like I look at things, the toys my son gets now, there are some companies that like, man, this is a high quality toy, but a lot of them it's like, man, the vintage ones lasted forever. The new ones are like chintzy and they break. And what does more damage long term? Well, when you can only use something and it gets through half of a kid, and it can't even go through, several kids in a family and then pass on to the grandkids or to some other family before it's broken. So one of the reasons why we resell vintage items, certain electronics. Sometimes it's the collectible memorabilia aspect of it. This is a cool concert shirt, but sometimes it's because this was quality stuff that people were looking for, or they want to get something that's quality that is going to last. I think if you're looking for a certain pair of jeans, or you're looking for a certain item on eBay, you're getting it used, you're getting it maybe half of what you'd get it for new, but this one pair of jeans is going to last me a decade, as opposed to if I just go to Walmart and pay $30 for a pair of jeans or $20 or whatever, they're going to be worn out in a year. And so you're actually in a lot of ways making a big difference, because we are finding those items that are going to allow people to not have to continually buy cheaper stuff. They're getting the quality items at a cheaper price, which makes a big impact.
Well, and the last point I wanted to make on this is that we're preserving history too, right? I think that's forgotten. Like, we think that, how else do people come across certain items? I mean, I can talk about all the famous shows that have been out there, but even myself, I'm a history guy, and I come across historical stuff while I'm reselling, and sometimes I don't sell it, but even if you do sell it, you're giving it to a good home. I've sold stuff to museums plenty of times, and those museums have bought these items, and now they're preserved in a museum, and they're always going to be there for people to, remember, for people to recognize the past. And so again, reselling, the profit motive, right? The idea that individuals are out there looking and they're going into barns, and they're going into sheds, and they're going into, places that most people wouldn't go to, trying to find items for profit. Well, as a result of that, there's also the preservation of a lot of things that would have been lost, would have been destroyed, and forever been gone from this planet, where now they're being preserved. And so reselling in a way is kind of like you're an artifact finder.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of
treasure hunter.
Treasure, but this is artifacts.
But like historical treasures, not just like money treasures.
Historical treasures. All right. Hey, before we move on to our favorite segment of these this theme episode, I wanted to talk about our favorite bubble wrap, AmericanBubbleBoy.com.
That's right. I feel like when we, I don't know, we'd have to talk to American Bubble Boy if they'd approve of this, but I feel like when we're talking about American Bubble Boy, we should have background, patriotic music playing, because they have got the flag, and so it could be the national anthem playing in the background, and it's like American Bubble Boy. But American Bubble Boy is a great company. We love them. It's high quality bubble wrap that you get shipped to your door. It saves you time. You're not having to worry about driving to a store. Are they going to be out? Are they going to have enough? What's the price going to be? I've got to drive. Think about since we're talking about the environment, you got to drive to the store. You got to no, you get to stay in your house.
Saves you some gas money,
That's
man.
right. Gas money right now.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just the price of that alone, the fact that you're not having to pay gas money to have your bubble wrap sent to you. So American Bubble Boy, if you use our promo code or use our link, you'll get a discount if it's your first time using it, but try it out. We can tell you how great it is, but you got to try it. You got to try it. You got to see it, and let us know below what you think.
And it's interesting. Gas. Where I live, I have some of the cheapest gas in San Diego. It went up probably $1 in 48 hours.
Yeah, I know, it's disgusting.
Isn't that crazy? So just get it shipped to you. Okay, and the prices have not gone up yet. So again, PureHustlePodcast.com. First time promo code PureHustlePodcast. And hey, by the way, I know some people have talked to us about the promo code. If you're having issues, please let us know so I can kind of I want to fix this. I want to make it right. So let us know. All right. If you have not been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. You can always give us a call, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. I would love to make an episode where it's just listener phone calls.
And we just answer.
We just
back and forth. Yeah.
Or it's hustles of the week or whatever it is,
Yeah. Give us a call.
So make it word only. Call us.
Yeah. We want to hear your voices. Sometimes I forget, when we're recording this, it's me and you talking to microphones and staring at a camera.
Correct.
And there are thousands of you out there. There are tens and tens of you out there. And and we would love to hear your voice, to call in and interact back with us, so we don't feel like we're just staring at a camera.
There you go. And we do appreciate all of you that have left us a hustle of the week via email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. We will be sharing those in our next theme episode. And there's some, space available. So if you ever want to email us at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com, please do so. Also appreciate all of you that listen to the podcast. And as always, we do have a YouTube channel, so we're trying to get it to 10K here pretty soon, which is going to be a little bit, but the sooner the better. Jump on over if you're just listening and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when new videos drop, especially like our Monday minisodes, and smash that like button. And last of all, iTunes reviews. I'm still frustrated at this 4.9 out of 5. That's fixable. I know it is.
Mathematically, it's not though.
But it is in a weird way.
I mean, even if you had 1,000,000 5 stars and 1 star, it would still be 4.999999999, right? Like
true. Anyways,
I'm happy that so many of you guys are enjoying the show. And if you are enjoying it and you do want to help, I mean, Orlando over here is sweating it. So if you want to help him, it's like having a negative feedback. If you want to help us get those metrics up, go leave us a positive, give us those 5 stars and leave a comment. We love reading those comments. It's other than Patreon and literally the financial aspect of us being able to produce the show because it costs money to upload all the stuff. The comments, the reviews on iTunes, like that is such a inspiration to us. It's like, all right, we're making a difference in somebody's life. Let's do another episode.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're still the top rated podcast and the most listened to podcast. And we know that there are many of you out there that have different choices, and there are some good reselling podcasts that have emerged. But we'd like to keep at number 1. So appreciate all your support. All right, are you ready?
Come on, hustlers! It's the freaking hustle of the week.
We got some good ones here today.
All right,
we always do.
All right, our first one comes from Mike. The IG handle is @Aktazera, AKTAZERA.
I don't know if it was supposed to be pronounced that way, but
well, if you want to call in and correct the pronunciation of your name, go for it, please. So came across a puff jacket.
That's why. I know why.
It's the wrong name.
I misspelled. It is Altazera, ALTAZERA.
All right.
See, I knew something was wrong. It was me.
That was you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Sorry about that.
All right. So came across a puff jacket at a thrift store. It was a Canada Goose Woman's Hybrid Light Tech down jacket. And he found it at a thrift store in Phoenix for $3. Listed it on eBay and was able to sell it for full price within a week for $296.99. So from $3 to nearly $300. That's some ROI right there. That is. Now, if you're new to reselling, we do these hustles of the week because these are like awesome, unique things that happen. Like these happen. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say regularly, but like these kinds of finds happen, but this isn't every day. So a 3 to 300, that is an amazing sale. You can't expect that all the time. And when you get those sales, and you will get them, man, it's worth celebrating because that's a good feeling. And jackets, down jackets, there's definitely money to be made there.
I love how Mike said thrift store. Didn't give the name, did anything, because where else are you going to find a $3 Canada Goose? But I mean, I can't even think of like, some off-brand, like terrible jacket that sells for $3 at any of our thrift stores. So nice find there, Mike.
I need to drive to Phoenix, I guess.
There you go. Oh, and now he's like, great, I shouldn't have shared. Dang it. All right. So this is kind of like hustle of decade, hustle of the year, kind of epic proportions. So this is from Raleigh IG handle, the.endless.thrift, who has been a repeat hustle of the week. And this one made the rounds on social media. So you may have seen this come across. So Raleigh and his brother, HUD, also known as lumberjack_thrifts on Instagram, went to a flea market that they consistently go to each month and went to a booth that they're familiar with. Their dad pointed them to a section of the booth with vintage camera gear. Notice a small bin. And in that bin, there was a voice recorder he recognized as a bolo from a Facebook group, but didn't know what it was. So he looked it up and started freaking out. And his brother found the second one, purchased the voice recorders for $5 each, went home, tested the voice recorders. He says there were no ghosts, LOL, but I'll explain too why. And listed them on eBay with a video on the listing. What they picked up was a Panasonic RR-DD60 digital IC recorder, EVP, which is, I guess, like ghost hunters used to pick up ghost voices or something.
All right.
And it's from Japan. His brother listed His brother listed it at night, and it sold for $2,999.99. I gotta tell you, I mean, I'm just looking at this, and here, how would you know? Like, that's the thing, right? This again, I always say this, like, you gotta follow, like, you gotta be on social media. You gotta because there's a lot that you miss out if you're not, right? And so this was from a Bellow Facebook group, and then Raleigh listed his, and it sold for full price at $3,395. And they actually used a new listing format where you can put a video for like the second picture. And one of the buyers informed them that the video made the difference in their desire to purchase the recorder because they saw it working. So $10 in total, and they made over $6,000 profit.
Now, if they really wanted to make some money, they should have like hit record and then been like in the background and been like, ghosts, goodness. There's ghosts on this one. It works. And then
I wonder if people on the podcast were like, where is this going?
You know what I mean? Like, found this recorder and listened to this recording that's on the tape.
Yeah, that would be maybe. Who knows?
We're gonna have one of these episodes one of these days where we talk about like the things people sell on eBay, because I see them all the time of like haunted dolls and haunted paintings and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure a haunted voice recorder would that could do it.
But I got to tell you, I've only had a handful of $1,000 sales, and when they had talked about, actually, we had mentioned this in this episode, right? That some of the, the opportunities that are provided by reselling allows people to make life-changing money. And actually, Raleigh had talked about that he's throwing into his wife's student debt.
Wow.
Right. So again, reselling, right? That recorder would have just been sitting at that flea market. No one picked it up. Now it's going to go to a good home, and it's going to help out that family if they're trying to find their loved ones. And it's going to help out Raleigh and his brother and their family. So what a hustle of the week.
Nice.
That's just, man, I can only imagine the intensity when you're testing it going, please work.
Please work. Because even if it didn't work, you probably still could have sold it for several hundred. But like, to see something that's like potentially thousands, yeah, you've got to be stressing it.
I'm telling you, it's like,
and that's probably, honestly, I'm sure he's happy because it was him and his brother. But that's one of those times you're probably like, I should have gone alone, like.
Let's not cause some family drama here. So, all right. So, hey, thanks for sharing with us, Raleigh, at the.endless.thrift on IG.
All right. Our next one comes from Matt, IG handle at ResellChamp. So we went to a consignment sale 6 months ago and picked up a Playmobil set for $25. So it was a vintage Playmobil large 10-wheeler dump truck from 1986. It was new in box, paid $25 for it, and sold it for $200. Yeah, I mean, you can get some really cool. You had a huge Playmobil. I never even heard of it until I saw your big haul, and I still was like, oh, that seems like a cool thing. I mean, to me, I originally thought like that is that like Mega Bloks, like like the construction, like that's what I thought it was. Yeah. And then we got a couple of things for my son, and it's a really cool product. Like their toys are pretty amazing, and I can imagine that if you're getting ones like this one's from 1986. If anything Playmobil, it's still in the box, because even the pieces, sometimes like pieces from set sell for a lot of money, especially the older stuff. So that's definitely a hustle of the week and a bolo.
Yeah, seriously. And I'm still selling Playmobil. Like it's wild.
How is somebody called in and actually told us how to pronounce it? Playmobil.
Playmobil. Yeah.
Playmobil.
Yeah, it's we should every time we say it, we should say Playmobil.
Playmobil. I think we should just set that as a sound so we can just play it.
All right. What's your hustle of the week?
Okay, so this one is kind of like an ongoing thing. And I think I've mentioned it even as a hustle of the week before, like, because it's like, okay, I got a couple sales again. But I had picked up at a garage sale, and it was another reseller, and I bought him out, and it was haggling, man. I was probably there for like 20 minutes going back and forth, and I bought out a whole bunch of like DJ equipment, and most of it was the same stuff. So it was basically like 3 different items that I bought, like only 2 of one item, like maybe 5 of another, and like 20 of another one. And I paid up. Like I paid, 30 to 40% of what they were selling for on eBay. But because I could buy so many of them at one time, it was worth it.
Sometimes you got to do that.
And he's like, honestly, I've been selling these, but they're slow sales. I sell like one every month or maybe every couple of months. And I'm like, okay, I'm picking up a lot. It might be a while before I sell them. And that's been about what they've been selling for me every few months. Well, let me see if I can figure out exactly how much it was here. I'd sold many of them and I had 5 left. Okay. So I had 5 of these left and woke up in the morning and somebody paid full price for all 5 of them.
Beautiful.
But then the bummer was when we went to go pack them up, we realized there was a 6th one that somehow, and what I think happened was it was a return and the quantity didn't go back up when it returned. So if I would have had all 6, I bet this person would have bought all 6 at once. But
did you reach out to them and say, hey, I got another one?
My wife had already packed them and then we found the other one. I was like, it's not worth it for an extra like $35 to deal with the hassle. And so and that one will sell too. I'm not too worried about it. But it was just crazy to think that like, holy smokes, like the rest of them are gone. They've been selling over the course of, it's been over a year now, I think, one every month or two. Sometimes a couple in a month, but then just all at once, just boom. And then it was like, that was really the validation that I needed of like, all right, that was a good sell. The first like 7 of them that sold, it was like, all right, I've broken even finally. And then for this just big chunk to come in was like, and it ended up selling for, it ended up being over $200 for the items plus shipping. And the nice thing was because they're already boxed and they all slid into one box, the shipping I was able to make quite a bit of money on because he paid for the shipping for all of them. He didn't ask for a combined shipping discount or anything. So it ended up working out in our favor. And it was nice just to have them out the door and done.
No, hey, I love, like I mentioned, remember my last hustle week was all the hockey jerseys I was able to sell, so. All right. So, it's funny because I have the slam dunk ones, but this one I want to share because it goes with our mini-sode. So our mini-sode coming up on Monday is about the importance of just knowing a niche. Like, what are the advantages of that? And one of them is you're able to, bundle and you're able to make deals and quick and you're able to recognize value. Right. And so, I have those days where I set up all my local deals in the same day and like I go place to place and I pick up. And there was one deal that I was kind of like, I don't know, like I saw the pictures and again, it was a bunch of Hawaiian shirts. And I was just like, do I really, I look at these shirts and there was like one Rain Spooner and there was like all the other shirts were just not top tier like Rain Spooner Hawaiian shirts, which is a Bellow. And so I go and I told the guy, hey, would you, he wanted like 30 for all 7 shirts. And I was 7 or 8 shirts, something like that. So, and I said, would you be willing to do 20 for all of them? Which automatically, even if they're cheapy Hawaiian shirts, right? The ones that sell for only $20, if I'm paying 20 and I sell 7 of them at $20 a pop, like that's a nice profit, right? That's you're 7xing your profit, right? Or 6xing net profit for those of you that, net profit. And then, oh, wait. And then if I throw in gas and I throw in anything, so maybe I'm 5xing. Okay. So it's still good money. So I go and I pick them up and I'm like, I'm not a fan of picking up cheap stuff. Like the more I do this, the more I'm growing my store. Like I'm really trying to focus on just picking up quality stuff. But when you get a bulk deal, sometimes you get that cheap stuff and you might as well list it because it's still going to be profitable. So I picked it up. I paid $20. I believe it was 8 shirts. And so, you do the math. What is that? Like $2 and something per shirt, right? That's pretty cheap. So right away, one of the shirts was a Rain Spooner shirt and it sold for $40. Right? Remember, I paid 20. So automatically I'm already in the profit. Then after that, I had a Howie Hawaiian shirt, which isn't like a great brand, not a Bellow. Sold for $20. Hey, so now I'm at 60. Then I had another Go Barefoot one and that one sold for $37. Right. So I'm close to $100 now. Right. And I still have, as 3 shirts, I still have 5 more left. Right. And if those all sell for $20 a piece, right, I'll be close to $200. Right. And so to me, if you can replicate that, like if you can replicate buying these bulk deals or collections, like, I've talked about my Hot Wheels exhaustively on here and I'm still selling them. I just don't talk about it as much. But if you're able to
start the Hot Wheel podcast.
Oh my goodness. I'm still shocked that, that I'm still selling, but if you're able, right? If you're able to consistently buy like that at super cheap, whether it's the bins, whether it's Gaylords, whether it's just local deals like Mike and I do, you will be successful. I truly believe that, and it has to be quality items. But again, that's my hustle of the week, because it turned from something that I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this, to buying it, and actually turned out way better than I expected. So that's my hustle of the week.
Yeah, man, you made me, I couldn't help it. I had to just quickly scan through OfferUp, because I'm like, man, those deals are so good.
They are. Listen, you could do this 24 hours a day. You really could.
Yeah.
If you had endless capital, you could do. You could do anything.
Just think about how much time people spend scrolling through TikTok and Instagram. And I'll be honest, occasionally you're like, man, that cooking hack is going to save me time, or that, whatever it is. But most of the time it's just wasted time. And if you just scroll through Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp, and you just know it, it's got an algorithm. It'll kind of put you into certain things, or you've got certain searches. Mm-hmm. You're turning that time into potential profit.
Agreed. Yep. Agreed. All right, now there's another thing that saves you time. Do you know what we're talking about here?
We're talking about Skull Shaver, baby. Skull Shaver is I would say, of everything that I own, my Skull Shaver is probably one of my favorite things that I own. Because I use it every day. Every day. Like, there's things that I like. Like, I have cool board games. I've got cool, a computer. I've got a lot of things that gets used occasionally. My Skull Shaver gets used every single day without fail, and it is extremely effective. It shaves fast, it shaves efficiently, it's easy to clean, it's pretty much self-cleaning, it's durable, and the battery lasts forever. That's the thing, is like I sometimes forget to charge it, but I don't need to. Like, I'll go 2 or 3 weeks without ever putting it on the charger. And then I'm like, oh, I'm getting down to 30%. I better charge this thing.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas other things, it's like, if you use most things a couple of times, you're needing to charge it. So the Skull Shaver, we love it. If you haven't tried it yet and you need one, you need to shave whatever it is you're hanging on to on your head, or you are already shaving every single day anyways. You're wasting time if you're using a razor. You're wasting time if you're using a cheap $30 Walmart electric shaver. I promise you, because the razor is going to be effective, but it's going to take more time and it's more dangerous. And the cheapy ones, you're going to keep throwing them away. They're going to keep breaking, and you're going to be unhappy with the results. Skull Shaver is one of those quality products that I think, people will probably want to buy a new head for them, but I can imagine people buying used because it's such a quality unit. Like, the unit itself, the motor, the engine, it can get wet. It's a great product. You got to check it out.
Yeah. So go to skullshaver.com down below in the link, and use our promo code HUSTLE with the capital H, or I don't know if it matters, but
yeah, try both ways. Buy 2 of them, one with a capital H and one with a lowercase h, and see what happens.
And there you go. All right. Hey, so here's the last one. And this is one of my favorite ones as to why reselling is ethical. And I even argue it's a moral good. And it's the idea that it connects individuals to items. So let's start with the argument that you hear the most, is that by buying stuff for cheap, like at a thrift store, right, you are taking from poor people. You're exploiting poor people, which, here's the truth, that's impossible to do at this point in time. Right. I just read about how much clothing and shoes are out there. There isn't even enough to be bought and sold. That stuff is ending up in landfills. Right. And so at the thrift store, yeah, maybe you're getting that pair of Jordans, right, that somebody, maybe without money wants. Right. But the deal is that there's always another pair of Jordans. There's always another pair of, I don't know, Reebok Iversons.
Or just shoes.
Or jackets.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I just sold a kind of a vintage Betty Boop or Betty Bop. Is it Betty Bop or Betty Boop?
Betty Boop.
Betty Boop jacket. Right. So it's a satin jacket, kind of like, I don't know what is it called? Embroidered. It's an embroidered satin jacket. It's a really cool item. Sold it for about $100. And yeah, you get an item like that at a thrift store and you pay $10 for it or something. That's a pretty unique jacket. That's not necessarily like, when the idea, like, people, I think, have this, it's easy to create a caricature of resellers are going in and they're buying all the jackets, and somebody who needs a jacket because they're living in their car, or they're in their house and they can't afford heat and they don't have a jacket, they can't get a jacket because we're buying them all. And it's like, that's not the case. I bought the really flimsy satin Betty Boop jacket.
That
right?
wasn't going to keep anybody warm.
Right. When I go through a jacket rack or a shirt rack, for every one item I pick up, there's probably 50 to 100 I'm passing because there's no resale value in it. And so we're not taking items that people need. We're not taking necessities. Now, could it be that because I'm spending hours in a thrift store, I'm finding gems of like, man, this is a really cool one, or maybe this has a little bit higher quality. Honestly, this other jacket probably is warmer and has a higher quality, but it doesn't have a name brand to it. Right. And so I don't think it's a valid argument when that's made, when people say things like that at all. And I'm still paying, like we talked about in our first point, the thrift store, the money, which then they're using to help the community. So it really is a win-win-win. I think it's a really bad straw man argument when people have that idea of like, well, if resellers buy all the shoes, there won't be any shoes for the homeless who want to go into a Salvation Army and buy shoes. It's just not the case.
And the other thing is, it even provides bargains for people that have limited funds, right? So, everybody goes with that argument, but then they go with the argument about, what about the college student, or what about, the young family and so on. Reselling provides goods at a discount. I mean, and if we do go into recession mode in a few months, which is possible, hopefully that's not one of the words that gets a shadow ban. But anyways, I was reading up, and I shared this on Instagram, like about how resellers did during the 2008, 2009 recession. And they did very well. And the reason they did very well is because everybody was looking for a bargain, right? So us as resellers, right? And I'm not talking about, reselling PlayStation 5s or Xbox. In this case, I'm talking about secondary goods. Like, we provide a bargain, right? When people are with limited funds are looking for stuff, instead of them paying, they need a pair of cowboy boots to keep working out in the ranch. Instead of paying the $200 for a pair of Tony Llamas, they're paying 70 to 80 for a pair of Tony Llamas, right? And so I make profit, they make a good deal, and we're good.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is the idea that if you're a thrifter, you go to thrift stores, unless you don't care about brands at all. Like if I'm looking, for instance, I've maybe picked up one or two North Face jackets that fit me of the hundreds and hundreds of hours I've been in thrift stores. Now I've found a lot of North Face jackets, and I've sold a lot of North Face jackets. Some are too small, some are for women, so the idea of like, okay, that college kid, if he goes into a thrift store, the chances of him finding the brand he's looking for or she's looking for in their size is so small, whereas they can go on eBay and maybe they didn't get it $10 at the thrift store, but they got it for $50 or $40 on eBay instead of $120 at the store. Correct. So I actually saved them time because I found that at a thrift store, maybe hundreds of miles away from them, that they wouldn't have been at. And even if they go to their local thrift stores and spend hours and hours and hours, the chances of them finding the thing they're looking for. So I'm saving them time. I'm actually turning my time. I'm changing it for their money. That's all I'm doing. And they're still getting the deal. Like they'd probably gladly say, you could get this for $10, but you're going to have to work for me for like 6 hours. They'd be like, no, it's not worth it. Right. But I did the work for 6 hours finding stuff and I connected it to them. So it is a fair trade.
Correct. And so the other one, we're talking about just people with limited funds. Let's say people have funds, but they're in need of certain items. And we saw this happen, in the situation that happened 2 years ago, which it's been 2 years. Can you believe that? It was this time 2 years ago that we had to cancel our meetup. Isn't that weird? Seems like so long ago.
That was back when we were flattening the curve.
Yeah. Huh? Okay. Anyways, we're not that kind of podcast, but here's the deal. A lot of people needed masks. They needed sanitizers. Now we're going to get shadow banned. They needed all these things. And who was able to provide them? Those resellers. Right. And did people have to pay a higher cost of things? Sure they did. But they provided a service which, as a result of, these stores running out of things, people didn't want to drive around. I ended up getting my stuff from other resellers, right? Because I just didn't know. I didn't want to spend, the time of gas. It was during a time where I didn't want to take the risk out there and put myself in danger looking for an item. And instead, it was a lot easier for me to go to Amazon or eBay and get what I needed instead of me trying to go do the hunt. Right. And so we've talked about this over and over again. The idea that, the idea of price gouging is not a reality, right? Because it's an idea of supply and demand, right? And so what happens is whenever there's a low supply of goods, resellers come in and they fill that gap and they provide the goods for people that need it. Right. And yes, it might be at a higher cost, but what that causes the industry to create more of a certain product to fulfill that need. And eventually the prices all do come down.
Yeah, it levels out. And again, like we've probably talked ad nauseum in previous episodes about this, because this is I hate using the word nuance, but there's a lot of elements to this argument. So it's really easy if you just hear what Orlando said or what I said and to think like, oh, but there were a lot of people who went to a store and literally bought all the hand sanitizer and then price gouged it, right? And I can understand where that idea comes from. And people use the argument of like, okay, there was a fire in a community or they lost power, and so people were bringing in water and selling it for $5 a gallon, and that's price gouging. But the reality is, because that need is there, some people are going to come in just for humanitarian reasons. But if you can get people who live hundreds of miles away to say, I'm going to fill up my truck with water and I'm going to bring it there because I can make some money, that water wouldn't get there otherwise. And if enough water is getting there from people doing it from the kindness of their heart, then those people trying to sell it can't sell it. So the only way they can sell it is if nobody else is doing that. So they're still providing that need. So there's been many examples throughout history where they try to prevent in the name, and it's easy. It sounds good, right? Like we want to prevent price gouging. We don't want people to be able to charge this amount for food. It's a necessity. Well, the moment you do that, the moment a community puts in a law or some kind of thing in a place saying you can't charge this price for this item, people are unwilling to take the risks that's necessary to get those items to those people. There's been, examples of kingdoms under siege or a castle under siege, and you can't price gouge. Well, the people who'd be willing to sneak food in to get the money now won't do it because I can't sell it for any money or I'm going to get in trouble. So then that castle starves. Whereas if you could charge whatever you wanted, people would do whatever it took to get the food in there.
Correct. And the greatest motivator, right, is being able to make, money, right? And so, again, the individuals that, again, were willing to take the risk during that time, right, a couple of years ago, right, they took on that risk. And so therefore, their cost should have been a little bit more, right? Because they put themselves out there in dangerous way. And on top of that, they had to do the transportation, they had to do the shipping. But along with all of that, again, they provided something that was unavailable, right? And again, I think there are chances I think there's a lot of times that, through reselling, the price gets manipulated by resellers taking on too much.
Yeah, there's temporary market, fluctuations that could be caused by resellers. But resellers, you typically act to resolve that issue. 9 times out of 10, resellers help the market stabilize as opposed to the other way around. It could take a little bit of time to get there. And please don't hear us and say that like we're defending all the people, because there were people who did really shady stuff.
Yeah.
So please don't hear what we're saying here and say like we're totally defending everybody who sold necessary things, who would go into stores, buy everything. I mean, I could just imagine like right now there's a formula issue, right? There's a bunch of formula on recall. Yeah. So a lot of formula specifically for like, I think it's for like sensitive stomachs. A couple of children have died.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. Yeah.
And so all these formulas have been pulled off and recalled. And because of that same thing, people are going and they're almost panic buying formula. I have a kid who's on formula right now. I mean, we're like, we need formula. And so the prices go up and there are people who can cause things. If you take something where you can't get it any other way, and you're basically, there are people who can temporarily price gouge. And if it's something that's literally like life or death for people, medicine, things like that, there are people who do shady things. So please don't think that we're defending everybody. But I think that resellers in general got a really bad rap for things that necessarily weren't that shady or that wrong. They just don't understand the full market impacts of the decisions resellers were making.
They filled in the gaps. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, it's even myself. I mean, how many times does Amazon themselves mark up stuff, and I'm willing to pay it because I get the fast shipping. I get the item I need. I save time that I can use now with my family. Like there's a reason that the reselling market thrives, whether it be for, not just, all the luxury goods, but also for necessities, because for some people, they're willing to pay more because at the end of the day, their time with their family is more valuable than their time in the store. Okay. All right, now the last one, and this is one of my favorite reasons why I love reselling and why the arguments about it being unethical fall apart for me, is that we connect cherished items with people. Right, over and over again. People are willing to pay. I can't tell you how many items, a simple example, my good friend, he listens to the podcast, he found my cell phone from my first cell phone that I ever owned. And it was in the garage. I don't know why I gave it to him. He was my roommate back in the day in college.
Orlando's very sentimental if you guys haven't.
I am. And I even offered to pay him for it. Right, even though it was worthless, I looked at the comps and it wasn't worth much, and I was like, "Hey," and he was a good friend, and he didn't even charge.
He just wanted the contacts off of it, huh?
I mean, I haven't charged it yet. Maybe I'll do that eventually. But I can't tell you how many stories I've gotten about, hey, this sweater, I haven't found it anywhere. My father wore this all the time. He passed away last year. This has a lot of special sentimental value to me, even though it's not the same one. They still want it for the memories, right? Or it could be, a board game, or it could be a certain toy. It could be whatever item it is. And reselling, right? The motivation for profit from reselling allows there to be the moral good of connecting people with sentimental items that they've been searching for a long time. I mean, I can't tell you how many, all of you that listen, that have been reselling for a long time, how many times you get that message, or maybe share below in the comments about a time where somebody said, I've been looking for this for so long, and finally somebody was able to find it and put it on eBay. Right. And again, reselling is able to do those things. And I love those stories. They mean, there was one, remember somebody was able to, because of the VCR and whatever, they were able to watch videos that they hadn't been able to watch in such a long time of their family. I mean, there's so many good stories.
Or I think even personally, like we've bought Spode ornaments. I've told the story of all my wife's Spode ornaments, not all of them, but many of them breaking. And it's like a family tradition. Her mom every year got her one. And so the fact that it's like, all right, we need the, 1999 one, and that one's broken. And look, somebody has it up on eBay. Even if it's $40, it's like, this will help complete our collection. And it's important to her. She's not a sentimental person with lots of things, but the Spode ornament collection was. And so how many times, even when you don't get the thank you, even when you don't get the, I've been looking for this, are you helping somebody, with something that's meaningful to them, something that matters? And you might not even know many of those, but you've got to figure a lot of the things you're selling, you're making somebody's day. Agreed.
And so again, reselling, right? Ethical, good. Maybe the argument could be made moral.
So it's ethical, it's sustainable, it's environmentally friendly, it's moral.
It provides opportunities for everyone.
Yeah. It's economical, beneficial. It's I think reselling, I think we've just decided is like, it's the greatest thing.
There we go. And hopefully all of you are able to, engage some of these conversations with some of the points that we made on this podcast. Whenever you get that person that goes across your way and says, yeah, you guys resellers, you're no good.
Yeah. Send them to episode 283. Say, listen to 283.
There you go.
PHP.
And leave the comments below. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.